Hey everybody, welcome to today's video review. So let's start with the first one. Let's put this one aside. So cool illustration, your story, funny jokes in it. Awesome, really liking it. So let's make this one a bit lighter, or actually, I think I'm just going to make this bigger and draw on top of it like this. So let me take the right brush. So I'm working in Photoshop, but yeah, you can use any software you like. So let's watch. So what I like about is that here you can see this line. So although it's in the middle, there's no real symmetry, and that's what I like. So that is cool. Some things we could do to make stronger. For example, here, this object, we could give this a little bit of perspective, maybe. So something like this here. What's these lines? So this has a little bit of perspective, just a little thing. So here. Also watch out that if you have this canvas here, that it's touching this hand here. What I then would do is maybe make this a little bit bigger or place that hand a bit lower. But because there's now perspective, and we see also here the sides of this thing, that you can draw this hand more around it instead of front. I have a feeling that there's a lot of things that are straight from the front. So I think the drawing looks a bit more dynamic if you're using these diagonal lines a little bit more and showing a bit of the side. So here, then we can, I like that the shoulder is in the front, that there's overlap here. So that's good. What I would do here is I would do something like this here and then leave this open so that this feels connected. That's the same maybe here. What you want, I think, is that you have this feeling, right? Like this foreshortening effect. So what I would do here is maybe make this hand a little bit, give this a little bit more space like this here. And then also with this jacket, maybe think about the gravity is pulling that down a little bit. So maybe only leave a little bit open here, and that it's here pressed against the arm. Maybe some line, and again, leave this open maybe so that you still have this feeling that you have this. So instead of this, do then something like this, right? So that it feels connected and not separated. Also here, these lines are coming together here. So I would do with this jacket, is maybe just do something like this here. So, and with this head, you can also choose to give this a slight angle that you can show a little bit of the side of the head there. And maybe you can open those eyes a little bit. Maybe play around with the eyebrows to give it a little bit more attitude. But if you give this a little bit more, show this a little bit more of the side, you can also do this a little bit so that this neck feels more connected to the head. Again, watch out that not everything is closed off, but that these shapes feel connected. By here, you're using these overlapping lines, but you're also leaving some gaps so things feel connected. And also here, that you, for example, here you show this side of the hand. There's just some little things, but I think that will improve your drawing a little bit more. Also here with this thing, with this fighting brace or something, that you show a little bit of the side in instead of only doing this. So give everything a little bit of perspective. But yeah, great work. Keep it up. So let's move on types. So cool drawing. So color-wise, I would actually advise one thing. So if you go here around, and you could totally choose that. But what you can also do, let's invert this color. Let's see what happens. So that is blue. And that will help pop the character out more. So let's make it blue. And I think although I like it, that's maybe a bit grayish. So what's happening now is that if we pick this color, skin color is saturation of 86 and then or 68, and the brightness is 60. So instead of this blue. So here's the blue saturation of 37, so way lower, and a brightness of 44, but of course here it's 24. So here, these numbers are way higher, and that makes this pop out more and the blue not. So I think that makes it a bit more, yeah, I think that works a little bit better. But of course you could choose for a color scheme like that, but you can also do basically, if you don't like contrasting colors, because that if you make the background blue, it helps pop out this character more. This is just some little color tip. What you can also do is making the saturation just a little bit lower, and it makes that character pop out more. You can also maybe use that that green in their eyes. Use that green a little bit in their eyes color, so then you have that eye of the green also in the background. So maybe, yeah, that could also work for a nice color scheme. So then you have two colors, so this reddish brownish color and that greenish color. So that's basically a secondary color scheme. So let's make this a little bit lighter. What I think could help you is, yeah, think about the construction of the head. I think that's right, but here this eye is, I think this eye would work a little bit if you put it a little bit more in the head. So because then show it a little bit like this here, and it's a little bit behind that the nose like that. And maybe out this a little bit. So here this mouth is also on top of this head, so it goes a little bit around. It's really subtle. So I think the biggest thing is actually the neck. So yeah, I think this should be more like this here, corner here. Also, if you look at your own jaw. So I actually think if you take this neck, it would be more logical if it's more here or something. And maybe it goes around like this. So try to think about where's the head, the neck connected to the head. So it's mostly more in the back. So it's great work, guys. Keep up. So yeah, that's the thing. Try to look also not only on real people, but also how other artists draw the neck connected to the head. I think that's something you could work on. Let's go to Humberto for this cute baby. So one thing is, although if you really want to make this super cute, there's maybe a couple of things we could do. Make this a little bit lighter, bigger. So here these eyes are nice. So these eyes are really looking at us. So here. It's always, when you put eyes here in the middle, it's always looks so intense. But you can also maybe also do is maybe also be something different. But if we use these eyes, let her look at something like a butterfly or something. But maybe it looks a little bit less intense. Here. That has to do because, for example, if you have two eyes and we do this, it feels really intense. But a lot of times, because in real life our eyes are small or our pupils are smaller, it's a lot of times when we have this, it's a lot of times that you don't see all the white around our irises and pupils. And when you do that, it feels really intense. So this could help a little bit. So that's a trick I'm often using. And sometimes, yeah, you use these. Sometimes you can't, yeah, you have always the situations where you need to look at the audience or straightforward. But a lot of times I use that the character looks at something to make it less, yeah, less creepy. So think about here this, yeah, the neck of the baby is here. So here's this clothing is going around here. So this would be then the torso of the baby. And then here would be the pelvis. And here the leg. I think these lines could be, yeah, instead of drawing the legs a bit like this, you could draw them like this. And also with these arms, maybe make them a bit wider. Maybe this is too much, but make them a bit wider at the top and a bit more narrower at the bottom. So we can do this something with this hand. Or maybe it's funny if she's looking at this butterfly or something. It's always good to let your characters do something. Maybe it's even waving at the viewer, or maybe she's reaching out to this baby, and then or to this butterfly, and then we can draw this arm also here, something like this. Having this arm to balance her out. Then here, something like this here. But I really, yeah, I really like your drawing. I think you did a great work. What I would recommend you is to practice your construction, and yeah, to try to think about the anatomy of the baby. It can be really, really simple. But great work. Let's look at Eric. So I think this is great to talk about energy, and that you can see that there's being pulled really hard on this cow. So how can we exaggerate that actually? So if we have this rope that is being dragged, so I think if we make this skew like this here, you will have that energy feeling more. So like this here, because on this is the point it's getting pulled. And if you make it like this, it feels like this beast. Maybe also let this, here this leg point more here. Maybe push these one more here. So they're still wide out of each other. And then here, maybe we could do this. Maybe also do something like this. So yeah, it's not really working yet, but I have a feeling if you do it more like this, that it's using more his weight to fight against it or something. There are a lot of ways you could try out. So something like this. And this is one. So a lot of times I make doodles like this to figure things out. And but here in this one, it looks like he's about to lose. So maybe you want to have this feeling a little bit more. So we can really exaggerate it. If we want to go really intense, maybe we can draw this. So here, and then we have these bells here, the earth, something like this. Maybe see this track parts. So here, maybe show some a little bit more earth. Maybe here this head. More inwards, maybe. Maybe this tongue. Okay, this is a really weird, weird cow, but I'm just trying to get that feeling of that, to get that extra power into it. And after that, I would try to fix it. Maybe make these legs like this here. Then also you get maybe a bit of this feeling. This, and then maybe here even this leg here. So something like this. And then maybe here this tail like this, so you get this feeling. And also maybe not really straight like this, but maybe give it a little bit of an angle. But I would, yeah, I actually start with really ugly rough sketches like this to try to figure out how can I exaggerate it. Try it like this, try it like that. Maybe there's some other way. But really try to get that really try to push and exaggerate your drawing. It's a great work. Let's go to Vinicius. So great study, and I would actually recommend keep practicing this. And what you can do is then once you've made this this drawing, compare it yourself actually as well to the original drawing and try to see the difference. Maybe scan it in and put my drawing next to it and then try to see if you can see some differences and try to learn from that. And you can also do that with other artists, their work. I don't have the original in front of me, but yeah, I think what you're doing is really great. So just keep practicing. And I think it's really good to practice drawing with these construction shapes. And I can see you're drawing through your shape. So that's really great. So just keep doing that. Keep learning how to draw the shapes. And maybe once you've drawn this character, try to draw it in a different pose. You will learn a lot from that as well. And I get a lot of questions on how to start learning to draw. And I would really recommend to practice drawing art you really like and try to break it down and see how they made it. And try to learn from that so you can apply to your own characters. Maybe if you copied them, if you're good at copying the same drawing, try to take that character and draw it in a different pose, or draw the character in a different angle. Those are really good exercises. Great work, keep it up. So let's go to Paulina. So this is a cool character. I really like the angles and the the style in it. So let's make this one a bit bigger. So maybe here this neck, I think I wouldn't show that line. So here, then, so basically here is the head. So try to think what is her hairline? I think her hairline will be something like this. Then I think her ear should also be a little bit more backwards here. And then her hair also maybe here a little bit, should be a bit more hair. And there's always some space between the skull and the hair, especially with hair like this, that's has a lot of volume. But I think you did great, and I really like these eyes. I although think this eye could be a little bit more to this side. So check out some construction or anatomy about the head. Figure it out. Maybe put this mouth a little bit up. I really like these angles. So maybe you can also put a little bit of an angle here in this lip, like this, to make it a bit more stylish. Instead of doing this, try to do something like this, etc. to give it more these lines a bit more angles. Here also here maybe this. Watch out that this line is going towards the chin. I think it's nice if this line is just going there. And the neck again. So maybe give her some more neck there. So it looks more like it's supporting the head. So also try to think a little bit on how that neck goes. But yeah, great work. I think maybe you can also, here you have this line. I think you can leave it out or make it a little bit bigger, like this or something. I think it's a little bit too narrow and too parallel to that line. But it works better if you have something like this. That's a great work. Let's go to Corulu background drawing. That's really cool. So let's see. Let's make this a little bit lighter. And let's look at the perspective. So I think it's also always good to draw a frame around it. So the canvas. So draw these lines. Here. Because that's important, especially if you're working, if it needs to be shown somewhere. So here is this point going. We have a finishing point here. So that all seems great. So great work with that. Let's take a different color. So sometimes I take a different color to draw construction or to draw perspective. So here, here, oh. And here. So I think that looks really great. So great work on the perspective. So I think I can just turn it off. So let's keep that frame into it. So here. What I would watch out for is that if you have that canvas to lines going in exactly this point are also here. So maybe you can, for example, here this one, that it's a little bit bigger and that it's like this. So it's been cut out just a little bit here. And the same here. So maybe if this line, you need to change the drawing a little bit for that, but maybe place it a bit higher or a bit lower. So it's not exactly in that point. And you can also choose, for example, here we have this pencil. This thing is exactly following the perspective, but when it's on a table, it could also be a bit skewed like this here. But it has a little bit of a different angle than the perspective. So it could help. The same with the book. Maybe you can give this book an angle like this. And then once you have this, so is this horizon line here, you could do something like this to figure out how that book should be. This is a little bit of guessing. It should be a bit here. Yeah, so something like this could work. So that's then the angle for the book. So you can rotate things in perspective. Another thing I always do is when I draw a background, I try to think of that composition. So a lot of times I put the horizon line on either this line or this line. And point of interest, I think this is great. And maybe if this cat is watching, you could also put that cat here on the table, maybe. Maybe that's cool. But we have this cat watching here. Like this here. I think that's maybe interesting. Maybe put this character a bit more here, or maybe put this stool, or I don't know what it is. Maybe a little bit more to the side. I like that we have something like this. Then put this character more here. Maybe put this character here. Yeah, no, we just play around. But I think you did an awesome job. Try to also think about how, yeah, you would see a little bit of the top of that cabin. But great work. Let's go to Luciet. So I saw this one in the Discord. So for anyone who didn't know, there's a Discord page. You can check it out. In the overview post, I put the explanation on how to join the Discord page. So there you can chat with other patrons. I think that's also really good to do. So let's watch this draw. I think on one of these sides, you told me you left some space for some information. So that is fine. So I'm not going to change too much about the layout. Let's play around a little bit with the perspective. So here, I think this is fine. And you want to use this road. Go to this thing. So maybe we could do this. And that it aims at this thing here. So here. And then maybe we can exaggerate the perspective a little bit. I'm going to fix that later, but maybe that there's this perspective point there. And I think we could, yeah, the mouse there is cool. And also the bird looks really great. So I think this, yeah, this works really great. So the thing, you can also maybe make this a little bit bigger, and then it gets smaller and smaller. So you have a little bit of perspective. I think she's also standing really great. Maybe you can put this leg a little bit more forward or something to give it. But I think that character is fine. The most thing I have with these buildings. So also here this. So what is this part? Maybe it should be a building or something. It could be. So we could I hope that's possible, but I would actually give this a little bit of space here. And maybe here to something like this here. And let's make this smaller, put this here. Just draw here. So I want to have this blank. Then maybe here we see something like this here. And what's nice about this is that's also pointing those things. So maybe let's add this angle also here. So you have something that's aiming at the third perspective point somewhere down there. We don't have to draw it out perfectly, but we can draw in this roof like this here. And yeah, just give it a little bit of a simple perspective here. Don't want to go too much in that, but that it's here on the ground of this thing. I think that would really help with. So it doesn't have to be a perfect perspective or something, but I think you could play around a little bit. Then you would also see the perspective. So all these things go to this point. I hope it's a bit clear. We can even use it here a little bit. So something like this. I hope this is clear. Let me make drawing on top of it to maybe make it a bit clearer. So here we have this, basically this planet around like of horizon line. And then we have this road that's following that curved shape. That's going to this point here, this imaginary point. And everything goes to that point. Like this here. So this is our vanishing point. But these perspective points are a bit warped. And then it's the same, pick a different color. Let's make this a bit smaller. So it's here. We draw it on a separate layer. There's also lines going somewhere down here. It doesn't have to be all perfect. Then you can, yeah. Then on top of that, you could add these buildings like this, and then they're more grounded, this background. So I think that will help. And also here with this thing, you can also think about the perspective point somewhere here for these lines. And you can also use that here for these roofs and etc. So that's how you can use perspective, but then it's a warped perspective, like you're using a different lens. So if you have a photo camera, you have different lenses, and this is a wide angled lens. Maybe if you Google or search on internet wide angled photos, you would see those warped lines actually. But great talk, Luchet, and thanks for the example. I think it was really good to talk about yeah, a different kind of perspective than all those straight lines. It can also be curved lines. So let's look at Johan. So great sketch. And even when you, for example, if you're starting out with drawing and you're studying those examples I give, I would also recommend making these drawings as well to practice, to check if you can apply those rules you learn from my art or some other people's art, if you can apply it to your own drawings. So let's look. Let's make this a little bit smaller. So I really like this action line. And what I do have is that it feels like the drawing is a bit pulled sideways. So, or that it's warped. So really try to maintain the right shape of those shapes, the right proportions. So here, then here we have this torso. So maybe we can push this leg. Maybe we can actually do this. I do like this perspective. Maybe you can make one leg bend. Put something like this here. That this leg is bent. It's almost on the knees or something. That this leg is here in front. I think we can even exaggerate it like this here. Then maybe also here, even this part could be also a little bit bigger, that it's also closer to the viewer, and this is a little bit farther away or something. Let's move this here. Let's see this here. So yeah, I think that's sometimes what I do is I mirror the drawing to see if it's correct. Just let's take this head here. Just the middle, and it goes like this here. These eyes, and it goes like this. Here. So let's see. So when you're using construction, it's really important. So this is this angle. So this could be fine. Then it would be something like this. It's here. So then it should be going around here. Something like this. Then we have this shape here. You have the feeling its head looks a bit too warped. For example, it's a bit like if I have this, I do something like this here. So really try to practice that construction, how these shapes are and how you can draw this head in a different angle, because it would look something like this. And it doesn't have to be a perfect round shape. If you rotate this shape, it would also mean that you're rotating this line. But great work, Johan. I would recommend, yeah, keep practicing that and keep also doing those studies or from my arts or from other artists. This is really cool drawing. Great work. Also great stylization. I really like these angles in your drawings. There's what I like about it is that yeah, this anatomy looks really good. This head feels all connected to each other, etc. And I really like these kinds of corners. That creates a style. This is shape language. Maybe here this line. I think this line is maybe a little bit boring. You could maybe make it more interesting if you use a line like this here. So here, this is too round, maybe something like this, that you're using a bit of that here, this bulge is there instead of there. And also, you can also use an S line, for example. So here, you have an S curve versus a C curve then. Those are maybe some things you can play around with. So here we have an S curve. And then here's a C curve. Maybe make it, or maybe, yeah. Maybe actually make this line, you can also simplify this line like this here. So try to make more like this here, or you could go for C curve, and indeed that you have S curve. You can also choose to go maybe a straight curve, then a C shape, and again, maybe this one. Sometimes I like to do that as well, that you have this. It's not always working because sometimes you want to have give a character more curves, but straight versus curved, etc. So maybe that's something you could play around with. But I think you're doing really great. I think here maybe this hand could also give some more stronger shapes. I think this is cool, this is fine. So here this part as well, here this as well. So no tangents, so that's really cool. Maybe you can pull this line through like this here, and make this something like this here, or something. I don't know. It feels now a bit weird, sticking out too much, or something. But try to develop the kind of angles you use, and yeah, like that there, etc. But I think you're doing really awesome. I really like that that style you're using. Great work. Let's move on to Sodi. So this is a cool character. Let's So what I like about it is that we have this feet have two different angles. So that's cool. Let's start adding some construction on top of it. So it has this angle like here. So it's character is looking above. So that means that this nose that's here should maybe a bit more here. And that we're looking a little bit down onto it. And then here we have these cheeks here. So it means that we also have this neck. You see this point, like this here. Also try to, here, it's a little bit straight. So maybe try to give it a little bit of an action line. Could be really simple. So here. So that it has a little bit of this curve in the body. I think that would make this character also a little bit more interesting. But I like this perspective you have going. It's like the horizon line is here, and we're looking like this head. If this head was a box, it would look like this. So you would see the bottom, and here you would look on the top of the box because it's below the horizon line. So I really like that. But try to give it a little bit of an action line. But and make these shapes follow that line. It's great work. So let's go to Abdella. So cool, awesome work. I think it's really good to see your thinking about the shapes, and I think that's fine. You're still overthinking everything a little bit, but that's also a bit of the process of learning these kinds of things. So I think that's fine, but also try to find that feeling. I really like this kind of sketch where you really Yeah, I think I really like this sketch the most. And maybe you can, yeah, this almost a bit too cleaned up. Maybe you can try, yeah, maybe there's something between these two sketches. So this is your rough, and this is almost an inked drawing. So there should be maybe something between those two. I'm thinking you're doing actually fine. Let's look at the final drawing. Let's say, let's do this. So I really like this egg-shaped body. I think that's really fun, cool style. So I would imagine if we try to make an anatomy of this drawing. So here we have the front view. A lot of times I only draw these kinds of front view for myself. So here we have these arms. I think these arms will be more on the side. So I think that these shoulders should be more here. And then we can also make the silhouette more clear. So we have this arm here. That would mean this other arm would be here. You can also show that part a little bit. That would also help with the silhouette. So then maybe here with this leg. So let's maybe put this leg like this. And then let this leg maybe point more this way. So it's more, I always liked it more than this is always a bit boring. So I think it's cool if those legs points a little bit of different way. So actually, maybe I like more that because this arm is actually being back and this arm is actually being more pushed to the front, we could push this leg more. What would happen if we push this leg here? And then here this other leg is more in the back or something. So it feels more in balance maybe. So like this here. So you have something like this. That's something I would at least try out a little bit. And then you can use this tail, this here. Let's see. Yeah, you could try that out, but that's also what I'm doing when I'm drawing a character that's walking. For example, if you have this this character is walking, round ears, and he has this body, and here this leg is in the front. A lot of times this arm is in the back. It means that this leg is in front, so that means that this arm is in front, and it means that this arm leg is in the back. So opposite of each other. That's to maintain your balance when you're walking. So cool. What I really like about this drawing, Frank, is that we have this diagonal line like this here that gives that depth. So I actually think this drawing would benefit from a wider perspective, like maybe something like this here. So here, and then we can put this character a bit more here to the side, a little bit. Then here. Then let's see. So have the composition of these 9 parts. Let's see. Let's take this drawing. So let's erase this part. Let's erase this part. So we can take this one, move it more here. We have a nice front, but he's not that important. It's just a watcher. So maybe, maybe we can move him a little bit more to this to this point here. Then we have this character, move this character bit here to this point, make it maybe smaller, something like this. And you have this here, a little bit of perspective, so that these lines are not going here, so they're going somewhere there. Maybe we can something like this, so they're going to that point there. Then we have perspective point here. Here, this perspective is going like this here, and this road, this perspective, etc. So I'm using these points so that we have this character here, and then we have a character here and here. Maybe also add a bit of perspective to this board. This sign here, something like that here. Maybe can be a bit in the front. But I will play around a bit with the proportions. Maybe look at, it depends on, I think you told you were looking for children illustrations, but maybe you can also look a bit at cool comics you like, or movies you actually like, and try to analyze their composition a little bit. It's cool work, Frank. Nice storytelling. Let's look at there. Yeah. So cool sketches. I really like how rough these sketches are. So especially this one feels really, really cool. I think here, I like all these parts, like this top, but for some reason, this part doesn't feel correctly attached. So try to think about that construction. How's this nose on top? Here, this mouth should be, I think, a bit more like this here. So sometimes it works with drawing a shape around it to see if that's the side, and then we have the side of the neck here. So try to think a bit about that construction. And I think this looks great, but here this, for some reason, some shapes don't feel a bit off. Let me draw. So I will draw a little bit more in my own style, but so here we have this character. I have a feeling this should be a bit more to the front, and then here we have this side of the head. And the ear should be here. So then here. And here we have this mouth. So try to think a little bit about the construction of the head, of how the jaw is connected there, and then how's this t-shirts going around here, etc. It's a great work. I really like how you're drawing stuff. So, but sometimes can help is to mirror your drawing, and that can help you with looking at it at a fresh look by just simply mirror it. And in Photoshop, you can do that. I made an action of it, but you can also find it by transform, flip horizontal. And let's continue to Matthew. So I really like how these are painted. So that's cool. Yeah, I really like how you added these details. I think you can also add some. Keep adding details here. I think it's really cool how it follows the shape. But I would expect to and maybe I also really didn't in my own illustration, but that you maybe show a little bit more textures also here and there a little bit more. Maybe also add some highlights maybe on some parts here, but a bit less, or a bit, for example, if we draw down this height, but did you still see them a little bit? But yeah, great work. This pupil feels like it's a little bit too flat. I think this should be a bit more an oval. Maybe there's also a mistake. I actually did, but if you see this eye from this side, it would make more sense that it looks a bit more like this or something. But not wanting to go too much in depth about that. But I think your painting looks skills look really great. So maybe what you could try is maybe use some. So if I put value on top of it, put this on color, make this gray. There could be a bit more contrast in your shadow. So for example, put color, just going to roughly draw in, but you could add some extra shadow on top of it. Now I'm doing super roughly, and I always try to avoid real black, but I think you could add some more contrast in your drawing to create some more depth. So don't be afraid of that. So what you could do, for example, here, this looks really dirty, right? So maybe if you make this a little bit purple, dark tone, something like this, or a bit bluish, like this. Yeah, this looks maybe a bit better. A lot of times I'm using purple shadows. I think a lot of times it works really nice, nicely. It's still a dark color, but it doesn't feel muddy or something. So maybe you could try that. Try to add a little bit more contrast and maybe also some more highlights. And here I'm using an overlay layer. Yeah. Light. Places. Don't know if this works that well, but that you're using a little bit of lighter spots to place to create a bit more depth into it. But great work, Matthew. Let's look at this beautiful piece from Christy. So here, let's see. So, and it's not always the case, but a lot of times I try to avoid these horizontal lines in my drawings. I think it could be more interesting for example, if you've made this drawing like this here, maybe they're walking to the sun or something, and that you're using this, you let them walk on these lines so that you see them. That could be really hard to draw, but that you use these diagonal lines like this here. And then like this, so that they're really walking to something. Since also when we mirror it and we do left to right, and that's really culture based. But when we're reading, when we are reading, it's from left to right. So this means this feels like we're walking to something, and when you go from right to left, it feels like we're walking back to something, and here forward. So when we do something like this, it's like they're on a journey, for example, to a new world or something. But here, then you can also use some depth. So here, this one is bigger, and here are some smaller ones, or something that creates some more contrast. So a lot of times I try to use something like this to create some depth. And now it's a little bit, what is the focus point I think these two. It could also be this. So what are you trying to tell? Are they walking towards something or etc.? So you want something to stick out. So they're almost all the same size. So with something like this, you could make probably would be a character like this here. Maybe here this small character like this here. So now this is really the focus point. And a lot of times, that's why on the camera you have this grid in your a lot of times in your camera viewer, like this here. A lot of times you point some point of interest on this place or this place. So you could also put the sun here so that they're walking towards this place. But I think it's also good to have it a bit more like that there. But since these ones are bigger than these ones, they are likely to be more of the focal point, and it can help you tell the story. So try to think about what are you trying to tell, or watch a movie and look at the scene, and what are you thinking? What is this scene trying to tell me? What does this composition trying to tell me, and how are they doing it? But great work, Christy. Let's go to Jaco. So cool drawing. So liking the liking the storytelling. A bit thinking, what are you trying to tell with this illustration? What I'm wondering, what is the story? Maybe he is that a gun or something? It looks like a gun, like this. So maybe try to, if this is a gun, so maybe he is holding this gun like this. Something here. Maybe you can show it a little bit, maybe show a little bit, or maybe if it's not a gun, try to be clear about it so the viewer knows what's going on. So, and here this soldier, maybe you can make them more, can imagine that these are Russian soldiers or something. Maybe look them more angry, or maybe they're worried or something. Maybe they're scared. These are really maybe a knife or something to make it actually clear that this is a gun. And they are worried because they don't want to go to war or something, or they're just fresh, so they are nervous. So here, make them also really think about the clothing they're wearing. So I think soldiers are often wearing boots, right? So try to use the internet to find what is the gear they're wearing. And instead of maybe drinking a milk from something with a straw, if he's in the army, he would drink something out of a field bottle. How do those things again look? Yeah, that's something like this, right? It's a flask or something. Maybe it's a bit smaller. Maybe he has this gun right here. Here's his gun or something. But maybe you're trying to tell something else. I don't know. So what is the story, and how can you show it as clear as possible to me? So maybe try to think a little bit about that. And if you then make an illustration, maybe you can show it to someone who doesn't know what you're working on and ask them, what do you see? And if they can tell what you wanted to tell, then you know you succeeded. So let's go to Filippo Loco. Cool name. So look at this. So cool. I really like this style. So let's see. I think We can play around. I really like this character. I think this one, great work on that. Maybe we can make this butterfly also a bit clearer. So it's something like this here. Then so now it's maybe a bit more like that. This butterfly is also jump scaring. And I think the background takes a bit too much attention. So maybe thinking a bit about that. Maybe I would only show that this tent in the distance or something. Maybe I would even leave it out, because it's all about these two characters now. I think I would leave it out, or maybe I would go for composition like this here. If this was for a TV show or something, then here we have this character. It's actually like this here. So he's walking from the camp and is scared by this butterfly or something. Did you see this tent here or something? Like as if he's walking from the tent or something. Did you try to think a bit about it? Yeah, how can you tell that story? Maybe here's this tree, etc., and then draw a whole background around it, and here are mountains, the distance, or something. But maybe try to give it a bit more space. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's always really hard from Square. If you want to put it in Square, I would maybe leave out a little bit more, or maybe we can try to. Let's try to do it in a square composition. We flip it. Yeah. We have this butterfly like this here, and then maybe here in the distance is this thing here. And maybe here we see a bit of the road or something. Or maybe that's not even necessary. Maybe here's a bush, and then maybe here's a bush. Maybe here are some mountains. Use these mountains around these characters a little bit to show the story a little bit. Now try to get a composition like this, right? And that you have a big shape here, and then maybe here's the medium shape, and maybe make this even smaller, maybe, so that you have 1, 2, 3, big, medium, small. And then you also you first see him, then you see that butterfly, and then you see that. So that makes a bit more sense maybe. But yeah, great work. And thanks everyone for sending your awesome drawings, and have a great weekend, and I hope to see you next week again. Thanks, bye-bye.